What is going on, Titans? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to latest Titan Talk. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff about to go down today. Uh, David, John, how you guys doing?
Excellent. How you doing, Summit?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It is early here. I got my coffee and I'm ready to go.
Oh man, good to hear. Good to hear. I've got my tea. It's evening here, and I'm ready to go.
Depending on where you are.
Fantastic.
John, how you
There's
doing,
always
man?
that polite moment at the start where we wait for each other to talk. I don't
Yeah.
it's just silence. Summit asks a question and there's silence. Everyone allowing the person to go. Very, very well, thank you guys. England is nice and rainy, and I have a glass of water. I'm being cleansing today. You know.
Wow, the evolution of everything. We went from coffee to tea to water.
So let me
Right.
tell you something
Here you go.
funny. My better half went out the other day, and I said to her, oh, what do I need? I need something. She was going to the shops. I said, I need something. She said, well, I'm going to Mark's. I think you need some coffee. I said, oh wow, what an amazing person. She remembers my needs, right? I said, thank you so much. She said, I'll get you some really nice coffee. I said, thank you so much. And I deliberately didn't make my cup of morning coffee, and she went out. She came back a couple of hours later with full shopping bags, and then I said, oh, I'm looking forward to this. I'll have some coffee. And she gave me this bag, and she goes, uh-oh. And I said, what happened? And she handed me this lovely looking bag of coffee, gold speckles all over it, and it's like an exclusive one. And she goes, here you go, sorry. And it was decaffeinated.
Oh. Oh.
Oops.
Oh, we missed the part of the coffee.
Yeah. Okay. Man, I'm not a big coffee drinker. There was a 5 or 6 year period where I just couldn't drink it. It was making me crazy. It was just really, and then all of a sudden I was out somewhere and ordered a cup of coffee and I was fine. I was like, man, this I can drink it again. So now I'm easing my way back into it. But I've come back into this world of like exotic coffee. So whenever I'm out somewhere, it's like I never know what to order. Like, what would you like? Just some coffee? Oh no, I mean like Americano or this one or that one or the other one. And so I'm catching up with everyone in the coffee boom. Tea is easy for me. Green tea or matcha, that's it.
Nowadays, it's all about how much sugar and different types of syrups can we get inside there. Is it coffee
Right.
anymore, or is it just
Ice
90% milk and sugar?
Right, it's ice cream. Some of these drinks at Starbucks. Oh, it's funny, man. Anyway, everybody, thank you guys for having us. We are here and excited. Lots of changes going on, and they really, really kind of reflect, what we have been talking about for so long at Titano, which is, this space is crazy. All of these projects are experiments, and our goals are not going to be met in straight lines, right? They're going to be zigzags, and there are going to be some stops and starts, and there are going to be some hit a dead end and back up, and go down another road. And ultimately, what is going to determine things for any crypto project, right, is the resolve of the people who are in it and the resolve of the community that's supporting it. And Titano has proven for that to be the case. If you guys don't mind, I'm talking to you, Summit and John. I'd like to kind of just recap a few things that got us here and sort of the foundation for building us to where we are at this point. Can we jump to that now? Can I do that now?
Yes, by all means, go for it.
Okay. So, for the 15 months that we've been around, a few of the things that John and I have always sort of put at the forefront, and what really made us excited about this project was that it was built on innovation. A couple of conversations I've been having earlier, as these changes have been announced, it's just reminding people what the state of things were when Titano launched. Right, DeFi was in this crazy space, and we were coming out of the Olympus DAO season, right, where a lot of focus on Olympus Dow and Time Wonderland and all of those projects. And they had disappointed a lot of people, right? And a lot of people got into them, were excited. I was one of those people, and was extraordinarily disappointed at how they ended up. Let's put it that way. And along comes this crazy little project called Titano that I found. I don't even remember where or how, but the guys behind it seem to have really latched on to what problems these Olympus Dow forks had, and focused on, for me at least, some fundamental issues. One was around, involving the community. Another was around, making sure that the project itself wasn't in total control of all the assets, right? Because that's what happened with those other projects. I mean, we built up these tremendous libraries in these Olympus Dow forks, and then most of them decided, well, you know what? Now we're going to do something completely different. They were talking about node projects and tomb forks and all these things, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't really come here for that, but there we were. And so coming out of that, you had these crazy Titano guys talking about, we're going to lock that high APY, and that is going to change fundamentally the Olympus Dow model. And what that change was, is instead of building up these tremendous treasuries, the treasuries were then going to end up in the wallets of the token holders. And I thought that that was amazingly innovative, right? I like to tell people that, Titano at its height, which was about $259 million market cap, if Titano was built like an Olympus fork, there would have been more than $125 million in our treasury. That gives you the difference. But with the high APY being what it was, and the guarantee of the token distributions every 30 minutes, that money went outside of Titano and went into the wallet holders. An interesting thing happened as a result of that, right? I think people began to feel more connected to the project, right? Because the other thing that was going on during that time, and I've spoke about it many times, was that, sort of the status was, if a project runs into a problem, you don't sit and figure out if the problem's fixable, what the source of the problem is, is the team capable, you just run. And so projects were draining so fast. And in some cases, those problems were fixable. In some cases, they weren't even really problems. It was just bad news spreading, or fear, and all this stuff spreading, and projects were collapsing. So when John and I got involved with Titano, one of the things that we really wanted to focus on was, how do we deal with that issue? Right. And we felt that this little project had the potential of doing that, because you didn't need to be promised that you were going to be given value. Value went into your wallet every 30 minutes. And that was a great foundation for us, because then all we had to do is explain what was going on, to let people know, look, you're involved, right? People talk about DAOs. Well, what's a DAO? What should a DAO be focusing on, right? We're in cryptocurrency, so the DAO should be focusing on the currency. Well, this was a currency conversation. You don't need to take a vote on it, right? The value's already going into your wallet. And we had a strong belief, along with the three devs, that this message would create a different dynamic in DeFi. And it did. And, as we got the word out and, worked to create a community that was really built around, everyone was talking about game theory and working together, these tenets, these focal things, these focal points, became the center of what was Titano. And from that, those of you that have been around for a long time, we talked about what the potential was. Potential of everyone staying together, right? Not running. The potential of where we could take this project, right? I talked about a lot of things. Talked about, building up a big community of hundreds of thousands of people, right? Partnering with other big projects within the space. Being able to overcome, as a result of that, some of the macro issues and micro issues that affect us on a day-to-day basis. And then working with projects even outside of crypto, right? I talked about, being able to go to Tesla and say, hey, we've got 10,000 Titans that want to buy a Tesla, and we want you to take Titano to purchase that Tesla. These are all the foundations about what we were doing under the heading of us all staying together and building something together. And we went down the road. And like every road, there were all sorts of terrain. right? There was great smooth sailing at times. There were really rough roads. There were hills, valleys, peaks. And through that entire time, what we've been focusing on is trying to keep the vision in sight and trying to keep a team together. I've said said this to a lot of the Titans. I've said, we don't give enough credit to the devs for being here and staying focused on the agenda. No matter what happens, prices up, prices down, prices terrible. They're here working. They're here putting ideas out. They're creative. They're pushing. They're coming up with new elements. And we saw them do that and consistently do that. And that has led us up to where we are today. I bring this part of this discussion up because a lot of people are saying, not a lot of people, but some people come to me and say, David, Swych is a completely different project. And I go, no, it's not. It's the progression of what we started. See, we have to hold on to the goals, not necessarily project elements. Project elements are only tools to move us down the road, and they should be added or left out based upon if they're effective. That's how this has to go. And everyone's doing that. There are many projects, some big ones included, that started out with one agenda and realized, okay, we've got to modify this if we want to get to our goals. That's what you're seeing. But the foundational pieces that I just mentioned, right, where we're going, having a strong community, using that community to leverage ourselves into other things, that's continued. The question comes down to, and what we should be as a team focusing on, is what's the best way for us to get there? So under that heading, when people were asking me, so let me back up. So 2.5 months ago, we decided, right, everyone decided on the team that we need to make some major modifications. Why? Because the things that we used that worked for us so well for so long weren't as effective anymore. And a lot of the reasons for why some had to do with Titano, some had to do with simply crypto changed, DeFi changed. So a lot of those things that were working, people just weren't as excited about. And that brought in a lot of questions about what do we do? And what we came up with, massive change. The conversation came, it's like, we have to rethink, don't hold on to anything except our end goals, and see what we can come up with as what we think are the best paths for us to take. And everything was looked at as a product. When people were asking me, well, David, you keep saying this, which I've been for 2 months, guys, change is coming. It's massive change. What do you mean by that? Do you mean rebasing might be going away? My conversation around rebasing has been rebasing. There's no more bigger advocate in this space for rebasing than me. I love it because I recognize the value of it, right? It's a way to attract people to your token, and it's a way to keep people attracted to your token. And that's a critical part of crypto. So you can't say anything negative to me about rebasing. However, our commitment isn't to rebasing. Our commitment is to our goals, which is to bring value to the Titans. So under that heading, rebasing should only and can only be looked at as a product. And the bottom line of it is as a product, it is not allowing us or helping us to reach our goals. So it, like everything else, is on the table. And that was my response. Everything's on the table because it has to be. So from that, we began fashioning a plan around how do we reach these goals. And what you're seeing is our coming up with what we believe to be the best strategy for reaching the goals. And yeah, it's substantial change. It was for all of us. We knew that when we introduced it, it was going to bring up all sorts of emotions, love, hate, and everything in between. I've got people who were threatening me. If you end rebasing, I'm leaving. Just like that. But the goal again was, let's focus on the objectives. Bring value to the Titans. Take this project to its limit. We've got a great community, a very large community. And we believe that this is just the beginning of getting the most out of what we've all built together, all of us, the community included. So we've got to maximize our potential. And what you're seeing is us doing our best to maximize our potential. I'm saying to people as well, pay attention to what's coming, because these are things that you guys have been talking with us about. I've been saying, put your information down, put your questions down, put your suggestions down. Everybody hears them. They're all being put in front of the devs, and they're going to respond. Maybe not in the time that you like, maybe not in the way that you like, right? But they understand the protocol better than we do. So they're going to come up and say, okay, this is what they're asking for. We're going to design this, which takes that into account. So sometimes it's not a direct line to what you were thinking about, but the result is there. And the result in some cases is better. So I cannot accurately explain the excitement that we have, because we look at it as going from a situation where we weren't getting out what we wanted based on the work we were putting in, to one that's much better positioned to allow us uh, to uh, to be more effective, right, with what we're doing. And that's what it amounts to. Titans, I've been in dozens of conversations with projects talking with us about partnerships, other friends in the space who have successful protocols, and the team, the devs, you guys, about what we should do. And what's been consistent is that Titano needed to change. So I want to talk 1 minute about Titano and why we are leaving Titano, right? Why we are evolving out of it. But I want you also to think about what this sort of represents. Like, we love this project. We love this name. We built this, all of us, right? There's an emotional connection to it. But what happened over time, and I've said this again, and now perhaps it's coming more into focus, is that this project reached a point where it got a lot of negative attention. And we found ourselves being bombarded by forces. I'm not saying it was all negative towards that. What I'm saying is people believed something and said something and all these sorts of things. And that was something we had to overcome. And we found ourselves having to fight against, in some cases, misinformation, in some cases, negative forces towards us, but all of these things that really had nothing to do with the project, but they were real. And what you learn is that it doesn't matter what's true, it just matters what the perception is. So everything became more work, extra work. Whenever we talked about that 10, So everything got blunted with Titano, everything. And I'm talking about in conversations I was having, I'd have to overcome this negativity about Titano before I could talk about the topic that I wanted to talk with these potential partners with. And then I have to say, well, yeah, but hang on a second, and it's too much work. It's not fair. So it put us in a lot of pressure. And so we asked the question, is it better to move along with it or move along without it? And all things being equal, it's better to move along without it. It doesn't, as difficult as it is, it gives us a leg off starting with something new where people don't have a preconceived notion about it. So I wanted to talk about that because a couple of people have reached out to me, about that. How could you guys, and you're abandoning it? We aren't abandoning anything that's important about Titano. The things that are important about Titano are the goals and this community, right? That's it. And if we can come up with an asset that has more value than what we're leaving, I think everyone would agree we should do that. Where there's no downside, there's only an upside. So that's what we're doing. All right. There's a lot more, as you guys always know with me, there's a lot more, but I kind of want to leave it there. So what you're seeing is our commitment to the things we've constantly promised. I have to add one more thing, and that is this discussion around rebasing and did you guys wait too late? And did you guys wait too soon? Listen, that's a debate that could last till the end of time, right? When do you do it? And for me, it's always been clear. Rebasing is an amazingly powerful tool. And my discussion has always been, if we're going to leave rebasing, we need to have something that replaces it that's just as powerful. And the projects that I've seen, that's not just me with a feeling, because all the projects that I've seen that left rebasing failed. And it was because of this reason I just told you. What are you replacing it with? Right, great. You're afraid of inflation, you can't explain it, you think it's your downside. What are you replacing it with though, right? Because people in your project have their own reasons for loving rebasing. What are you replacing it with? So what was important was for this project to come up with new elements that were more exciting than rebasing, that had more potential than rebasing. And my hat is off to the devs because that's what they've done. Rebasing, as amazing as it is, has downsides. Right? It's constant pressure on the price. There are limited things that you can do with that rebasing token, right? There's a negative connotation to rebasing in the space. All those things we've been carrying with us. And so by moving to something new, right, again, that has additional benefits and gets rid of those negatives is a really smart thing to do. So it's nothing against rebasing. It's, the analogy that I use is to go back 12 years ago, Apple Computer, it was called Apple Computer then. Their number one product was the iPod. I love the iPod. I think I probably had every one, the classic, the nano. I even had that mini thing that I kept losing. I think I bought 10 of those damn things. At any rate, it was their number one product. It was more than 40% of their revenue. And it reached a point where the product just wasn't useful anymore. It just wasn't useful. And they had a choice to make. Do we want to carry it because we just love it? Or do we move on to something that can help us meet our goals? That's where rebasing is for us. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with rebasing. Doesn't go, oh man, you guys finally admit it. Not admitting anything except rebasing built this project. That's what I'll admit. So I just want to say it's a product. It served its purpose. We're moving to products that are more appropriate, not better or worse, just more appropriate. Another project could take on rebasing and they could do very well with it. It's not appropriate for this project now, where we are, where we're trying to go with this community and at this time. All right, I'm going to stop talking here and let you guys take over, but I just kind of wanted to set that context for where we are right now. We are extraordinarily excited. This has been months of work. Again, partially and mostly based on comments from the community about what they want to see. So that's what you're seeing here. Change is scary, change is tough, but in this case, change is amazing, and there's some amazing things happening. All right, so with that, guys, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and hopefully, any questions or comments about what I'm saying or anything you guys want to add, I'd love to hear it.
No, appreciate it, David. I think it's important to recognize where we came from and where we're going. There's been a lot of development, a lot of passion, a lot of strong, people in the community that are still with us today. As we make this huge transition and this huge, no pun intended, switch. Over to Switch here, and it's going to be exciting. It's going to be trailblazing. We had thousands of projects that copied off of Titano. I'm curious to see how many will try to copy off of Switch. but no, I mean, that's really what I have to say on that. John, I don't know if there's anything before we dive into some fun stuff here.
Yeah, I really want to get to it. I'm very excited about what's coming, and I think everyone's going to be excited too. I hope so. The only thing I want to add is that this is a big ship. It's not a small project. We were small at one point. We grew. We've got a lot of holders, and when you have a lot of people you're looking after, you take time to navigate that ship. You have to be sure. You have to be sure that what you're doing is in the best interests of the greater good. There are, in any decision you make, there are going to be people on either side, like you said, David, that people love it, people that hate it, and it's incredibly tough to be a developer, to be a founder. These guys are really smart. They're doing their utmost to try and make things work. They created products that did bring in revenue, that did create real value, and they did a fantastic job of it. But the issue with the rebasing was it created a situation where people felt that psychologically the price still went down. And so people felt that these things weren't working, but in fact they were. Play did fantastically well, the lottery did well, TSP is doing really well. All these things have done great, and now it's just a time where they felt that in the last few months, okay, we have to make a big decision, and like I said, it's a big ship, so we're going to steer this, and we've got to steer it correctly, in the right way. So things take a little longer than anyone wants, right? No one wants to take their time. That's not what's happened here. No one's sitting back and waiting to see what's happening. They're constantly working, they're constantly moving, but things take time to navigate when the ship is this large. Yeah, that's all I want to add. Should we get into it, guys?
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So
All
as
right.
far as I mean, we talked about the backdrop of everything, and kind of want to transition now into the Switch, right? Let's talk about what Switch token is, or what your Titano is to become. When is that happening? What does the start of everything like that look like? Um, I think that the easiest way to start this off is kind of talking a little bit about what Switch token looks like and when we can expect those types of launches to happen on everything here. Um, I know that the time frame we initially gave and what we said in the chats was 30 to 60 days. And it's partially because we wanted to get a little bit more zeroed in time frame for everybody here. Um, but the current time frame that we have and want to share with all of you is it's between March 6th and March 13th that we can expect to see the token actually have a launch. And that will be no later than that time frame. I wouldn't say any earlier than that time frame either. The reason we do things like this is not to have anybody know the specific exact date leading up, because again, we still have open trading, still free market. We don't want to give anybody an exact edge over somebody else who might want to try and game that system. But what I can say, it is going to be that little week period right there for the launch of the Switch token on that. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else to that there.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add was part of this is I know the devs have everything ready, but part of this is it's being audited, and they want to obviously double check everything is safe, and then they also have to just finalize the migration process itself. Um, as it was last time, it's going to be automatic. So, these things have to be double checked, triple checked to make sure
Mhm.
they're right. So, this is not long away at all. This is 2 to 3 weeks from now. March the 6th is a couple of weeks away. So, yeah,
Mhm.
pencil it into your diary. This is very, very soon, in fact.
Got it. Yeah, I wanted to add one thing also, and that is I've seen a couple of comments from Titans saying that they felt that we should not have let anyone know about when the migration was happening and all this sort of stuff, because they believe that that's contributing to some people dumping. And my response, and I'm sure the team's response would be, we have to give people an option to make a decision about what they want to do with their money. We're not going to spring anything on anyone or force people into something. You need time to think about this stuff. So giving people, a heads up about when something's going to happen is helpful. Um, so that's what I've been responding to people. This is what should be done. People should be made aware of a major change like this happening in advance. Um, yeah. Any comments from you guys about that?
Yeah, I agree, David, and I understand as well why people got upset about that. Some people voiced concerns about that, and it's completely understandable.
Hmm.
But as you say, the devs when they take a situation like this, when they make a big change like this, and as the team, they put everything on the table. Do we
Hmm.
just pause trading and move people over? When you hear those words aloud, you suddenly realize that's not really an option. You can't really do that to a community of
Hmm.
people that have invested in you all this time. Can't just stop things and spring the change on people. But that was on the table. Of course, you've got to look at every single option. You look at a
Right.
hundred variables, and then you say, what is the fairest and best way of doing this while protecting our investors? And this is the way they've chosen to do it, and it's the way most companies would choose to do it. And there's a
Hmm.
reason for that. As you say, David, you have to let your investors know, you have to let the community know what the intention is, and there's a small space of time there for people to make those decisions. And then during that
Right.
period, because it's not a simple process, this is a very big decision. During these weeks, during these days, so we announced a few days ago, and today we have this Titan talk. We're going to talk through all the different elements and how they will affect your investment. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're here to do. We're here to take all those reasonings and explain where we're going with it, and why we should be excited. And as I
Hmm.
said, I am very excited.
Excellent. Me too. Me too.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for the launch of everything on that. But I think it's going to be a nice, good start. It gives us a good green chart to start with, a new way to market. We have that, like I said, we have that time for everybody to make that choice. We want people to make their own choice of the investment. Do they want to stick through or do they want to, you know, head out now? I mean, that's why we don't pause anything. Like you were saying, John, there were those talks. Do you pause rebasing? Do you pause, buy and sell? Do you just force everybody into a migration? And that's not something that we've ever wanted to do. We've never wanted to force financial advice on anybody. And by doing those types of things, it's exactly what you are doing. You're changing
Right.
that free market mentality right there. Um,
Right.
and so, we want to, before we, dive into the tokenomics of things, we want to give people a choice before we transition over across on there. But yeah,
Well said.
that's what I
Well
will say.
said. All right, let's jump into it, guys.
So another thing I think we can dive into a little bit as well is, I don't know if you want to talk about as far as the, starting price, kind of go into a little bit of that if we want to talk or dive into there.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
we
Let's
want,
let's
Let's
talk
do
about
it.
that. Talk about the starting price and the how Titano holders get those Switch tokens, perhaps. So
yeah. So as far as starting price, Switch token is going to be definitely getting a different starting value than what Titano is currently valued at. And that's partially because it helps to reduce that total supply, helps to reduce that inflation element there. But you are still keeping the exact same value that you will have right now. Okay. So the starting price for the Switch token will be 1 cent, 1 penny. Okay. That will be the starting token price for Switch tokens. When we're migrating people over from Titano to Switch, okay, you will get a USD equivalent value. So whatever value you have right now is what transitions with you over to the Switch token. Okay, that will be how that little migration period works. You are getting in at ground zero. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to do any, sells. There's no tax on it for that migration. It is simply you are merged over instantly, day one, day zero. You are getting that value right then and there. Now, along with going through and doing that transition there, I think there were some concerns, but about people who have tokens in TSP. What about people who have tokens in play? All of those are going to be included in that migration as well. That snapshot will be done of the day of migration on there. All tokens in TSP, all tokens in play, and all tokens freely out there will be snapshotted right then and there and will be transitioned over. So if you're somebody who still has tokens in TSP or still has tokens entered in play, you do not have to exit them, take them out, or anything like that. It is all automatic. It's all included into that snapshot on that. So nothing that you need to do. So I know some people were like, hey, can I still use TSP? Can I still use play? Yes, 100%. You can still use that leading all the way up to the launch of Switch token on that.
Excellent. Also, Summit, along those lines, yeah, people don't have to, the migration is automatic. So all you will have to do, if you were around for the V2 migration, it's the same. All you have to do is add the new address for the Switch token, which will be given when it's available. And those tokens will automatically show in your wallet when the migration happens. And then the Titano tokens will be deactivated. So that is the actual process.
Yeah. So the migration process will go as followed. Trading will stop, snapshot will be taken, tokens airdropped, and then trading will open up right after that. So it's a little 4-step process. I would say it takes probably 3 to 6 hours, saying that there's no hiccups in the network or anything like that. So it's a pretty smooth process. It's a pretty painless process for everybody involved. Again, I mean, I would say the easiest thing to do is always just sit back and let it happen, which is exactly what will happen. So that you can't say anything easier than that.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
I don't know if you
yeah,
guys want to dive in a little bit more too on kind of migration stuff, please.
yeah, just to be clear, just to follow up on what you're saying, Summit, that will all happen on the day of migration. And again, if you're just tuning in, that is between the 6th and 13th of March. So all this will happen on one day within a space of a few hours, and it will all be automated, so nothing for you to do at all.
Yes. Now, again, a key reminder to that is it will be based off of your USD value. So whatever value you have in your wallet, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's the value that matters more than anything else on that. That is the value that you get in Swych token. So if you have, $5,000 in Titano, you get $5,000 worth of Swych token essentially. That is how that's going to be working on that there. So just keep that in mind when that transition occurs. If you're wondering, like, hey, where did my 25 million tokens go or whatever, maybe it's because it's going off of value. It's not going off of your actual token amount. We could also talk about how we plan to keep the excitement going after launch to have those nice green charts. If you want to talk into that.
Yeah, before we get into that, I mean, I'm just looking at some of the notes here, and just we can talk about why we chose the USD value, maybe.
Yeah, if you would like to talk about it, I'd be happy. Or I could go into it. Totally your choice.
Well, there's a couple of things people are wondering. Why am I not getting the same number of tokens? And why am I not? Why do things have to change at all? As David went through that at the start, I hope you caught it. But just very simply, you could imagine right now the Titano token as it is. We could we can't, but imagine if you just changed all the elements but just kept the name. The question is, do you want to keep the name? We have this connection and affinity to it, but it would be wonderful, I'm sure you can all agree, to have a brand new chart with a brand new name, which doesn't carry any of the negative connotations from the last 12 months, the bear market, the rebasing, the downward trend. And that's what David talked about at the start. If you missed that, please go back and have a listen. So this is an evolution of the token. People are wondering why we're changing the name. It's the same community, same devs, same project goals, as David mentioned. So it's the same thing. We're just we could have kept the name, but I want you to think about, you've still got the same $100 worth of Titano. We're just rebranding and giving it some new mechanics, which we believe will really take us forward based on what we're trying to do with the whole ecosystem in the future. There are certain things we're going to do, and you'll hear about them shortly, that couldn't be done with our rebasing token. And they're really big things. So imagine you had the opportunity now to have your token $100 worth of this or $100 worth of the Swych token with all these different opportunities. That's kind of how I think about it, how I think about my investment in Titano right now. It's $100 here or $100 in this new opportunity. I'm quite happy to leave it rather than keep it in this old entity or be too attached to it. That's what I wanted to add, Summit. I don't know if you want to add something about the USD value.
No, I think USD value is, like you said, one thing I always bring up is inflation. The biggest thing we're trying to counter is inflation more than anything else, right? We also have to look at backing. When we do a transition, I would love to give everybody 10 times the amount of money that they are currently valued at right now, but it's difficult to back that, because if a person were to sell, that drains out that liquidity and it brings the price back down for every other person as well. Because we have to look at, hey, we have 75,000 holders, right? And let's say you have 30,000 or 20,000 of them are long-term holders, and you give them a bonus of 5x or 10x on that Swych token, and maybe even 20 or 30% of those holders decide, hey, I'm going to take my tokens and sell. There's no backing. You're just printing money and hoping for the best out of something like that there. So it's important that we do USD value so that we don't have an inflationary issue, that the money is backed and the value is backed for that transition and that migration over. It helps the sustainability going forward. And all of it's done in, it's an algorithmic and financially feasible way.
Got it. Okay, what's our next topic, gentlemen?
So as far as stuff here, migration wise, kind of talking about the conversion and everything like that, I know we also maybe want to talk a little bit about, you know, kind of how we said, rebasing. I think is like, we've said it's for quite some time now is coming to an end. But there's still different types of passive gains that you'll be able to get with Switch token. I think that's something
Mm,
that's a strong reminder out of that there. We have
right.
that far or not. I'm farming. I'm sorry, staking that's going to be coming out, which will offer huge yields in APY, which gives everybody back that sweet passive income gain that you'll be able to get. I'm excited for staking a lot. People who are using TSP now, okay,
Right.
will get a huge benefit and huge like with the like a Switch staking that's coming out. So I mean, there's still that
Mm,
passive income that's coming out from there. Um, I would like to also kind of just highlight the fact that with the reduce of rebases and this transition of the supply overall, it's going to be something where we could see a lot more potential positive growth, right?
mm,
Because we're not having that rebasing that's hitting us down a little bit. I love rebasing, but it's gotten to a point where, hey, we got to recognize that changes need to be made. So bringing people's value up will be a lot easier. Price appreciation will be a lot easier, because we have
right.
a new start, a new fresh start with something like that. We can bolster that price up. We don't have to worry about a downtrend that happens on it. Things like that. I don't know if you guys want to add
Mm.
in on anything there.
Yeah, let's talk about staking. So, do we? What additional information? Because I know this has been a lot of questions. So we're not going to get rebasing. So, what about staking? So, what more information can we provide regarding staking?
It's an excellent question. As far as the APY type of things, I don't know. Oh gosh, John, can we say the range?
I asked the guys about the range yesterday, but I think we can give that range. Yeah.
Okay.
So so staking will be available, I think, at launch or shortly after launch, within a day or so after launch. But I think they're aiming to have it at launch, and there will be an APY of around 300 to 500%.
Mm,
That's 300 to 500% APY. You can stake your tokens and earn yield straight away.
Love
excellent.
that.
Three
Thank you.
hundred to 500%. Love it.
300 to
Love it.
500%.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Love
So
it.
for
Love
all of
it.
you
Love
out
it.
there who are looking to get some sweet rewards, you can definitely do that with staking. I think that's
Exactly,
just
and
something to highlight.
it's the most simple way of earning rewards as well. It's fantastic. There's no pairing tokens, no worry of impermanent loss. It's just stake those Switch tokens and earn more Switch tokens.
Yeah.
Right. Mm.
So a lot of nice little bonuses that will come out from that there. I myself am probably going to dump all of my Switch tokens into staking just because I like that. I'm a
Yeah,
little go
it's
degen moment
not
on that.
having to worry about it or think about it. Just put
Yeah.
it in there. That's what I'm doing anyway.
Yeah. And I think it's important to highlight that Switch staking is going to be similar in if you've used TSP, and I'm not saying that, the exit fee or anything like that is the same or anything there, but more on the lines of if you know the simplicity of how to use TSP, it's going to be the same thing for Switch. It is a
Right.
few clicks and it is done. So that's what you'll be getting out of that there, which I love and I think that's great. But it's going to be a very nice high yield that you get out of that. Since, like I said, for people who are like, hey, I want rebases, okay, that is your rebase equivalent. It's going to be staking. You're going to be
Mm.
able to put those tokens in and get that in exchange.
And it's also giving you the choice, right? Giving you the choice to stake or not. Whereas with the rebasing, it felt like an automatic stake. Whereas now you come into the project, you can choose to have it as it is, use your token, keep it there for liquidity, or stake it. And now you can start earning yield on it if you're a long term holder. So if you are in Switch for the long term, you can make more Switch.
Mm. Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
So
Any
just to
thoughts from you,
recap so
David?
far, guys,
We're
we
good?
have a
Oh,
March the 6th to 13th migration. We have a starting price of 1 cent. Your Titano tokens will be migrated on the dollar value. So whatever you have in Titano is going to be there in Switch on at the moment of migration. On the same day, or hopefully within a day, we'll have staking available, so you can stake those Switch tokens and earn anywhere from 3 to 500% APY. I think there's some big other news we can say about buybacks and burns. Can we share that?
Please. I love this topic.
So a lot
All
of
right.
people have been
Yeah.
asking about, we said that, well, the dev said that they were going to do some buybacks and burns for Titano, and they did. They did quite a few and quite a significant number, and what we found was, within the market, with the way the token was, the price still went down, and generally the sentiment wasn't good, so it didn't help. It led to exit liquidity, but with the new Switch token, the way it's been redesigned, there's none of the rebasing. They are keen and enthusiastic and planning, and it's there. They're ready to do these buybacks and burns. Summit, do you want to go through it?
Yeah, so let's dive into it. I think a lot of people were how often do buyback and burns happen? What do those buyback and burns look like? Will there be any? How do we make sure that the price, goes up? How do we get that positive action? I think a huge question is what about now? We see people who are leaving the project, or selling out of things like that. What do we do to bolster at the launch? And happy to say that with the Switch token launch, we will see buyback burns happening every 24 to 72 hours. So you will see there won't be a set time, just again, so that nobody can kind of game that system there. But every 24 to 72 hours, there will be a buyback burn that happens that will bolster up that price. So for people who are worried about, hey, what about value now? It'll go back up because of those buyback and burns happening right then and there. So that's a beautiful addition on that. So we expect to definitely see some multipliers because of those buyback and burns that are happening. Another thing with those buyback and burns is that you're going to be benefiting from that for people who migrate. Those are going to be the people who benefit the most, because you're getting in at that ground zero. You're the people who are getting that face value of the token. So I think a lot of people are under the impression that they can sell out, now they might take a little bit of loss and buy back in. But instead, if you're somebody who holds strong, you make that migration, okay, you're going to benefit hugely from those every 24 to 72 hour buyback burns. That's not me telling you what to do. You can always choose what you want to do with your investment. Please, whatever you would like to do that with your investment on that. But I will be happy to say that buyback and burns will be a nice and key element into the introduction of Switch.
Yeah, very well said, Summit. And I think, as we're always keen to stress, you must do whatever you feel is right for you. We've said that from the start of the project, and we continue to say that. But based on these elements, the buybacks and burns coming in every 24 to 72 hours, based on the fact that this is no longer a rebasing token, the Switch token will be, I think, personally, I would be afraid to sell my tokens now, get taxed on it, and then try and buy back at the start. And there are other reasons for this as well, which I'll go into shortly when we talk about the marketing. But yeah, this is very exciting. So buybacks and burns, and this will be over. It's not forever, right? It's we will always have buybacks and burns, but this process of 24 to 72 hours, these scheduled buybacks, they will only be for a certain time. Is that right, Summit?
Yes, it will only be for a certain time, and that certain time is going to be this distribution phase of everything here. Getting the tokens out. The way that's going to work is going to be in this distribution phase. So we'll have these 24 to 72 hour buyback burns. There's no time frame necessarily on what a distribution phase looks like, and that's purely because it just depends on the volume and traction of everything going out. But it will go on for that entire phase there. There's still, of course, that idea that buyback and burns will continue. But for this constant, nonstop buyback and burned, it's going to happen for, I would, at least, the foreseeable future that we can see in our quarter here. They will be in that distribution phase there.
I think also, Summit, thank you for that. Excellent. We should talk a little bit about, I know we will, about the different phases that we're talking about with the Swych token, and one you just mentioned, which is the distribution phase. So we don't have to necessarily do it now because I know we're trying to follow an agenda, but we should talk a little bit about what that entails and why there is a distribution phase. Because I know people are going, what do you mean distribution phase, and how will we know, and all of those sorts of things. So let's give that a little bit of conversation time as well when we reach a point on the agenda.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, we'll talk a little bit on that as well. I think that we'll get a little bit closer to that. Right now, I know we're still kind of talking like migration, buyback type of stuff.
Right.
Unless
Yep.
we want to dive into it, of course, it's up to you guys.
No. Let's stay on our road here.
Fantastic. I do see. I know that there's a few people throwing stuff in the chat, and I promise you, we're reading those messages as we see them too. But of course, we're also going over some of the nice big meat and potatoes, the big questions and things like that as well. But yeah, no, buyback and burns 100% are coming every 24 to 72 hours. Be very excited for that. You'll see a nice little bolster that'll come from that there when that transition happens. And those buyback burns will only start with the launch of Swych token. Okay, so again, the reason I stress that there is because you will benefit the most if you're a Swych token holder at the time that Swych token launches. So just something and a key reminder on things there. Of course, we cannot always guarantee what price will look like. We can't always guarantee times results, but I also want people to be well aware that their choice is always their choice to do what they would like with their investment. I don't know if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about as far as like buyback burns. If we covered everything from there, totally up to you.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add to that is that, we've had this ongoing conversation about buybacks and burns. As John said earlier, it was something that we implemented and just did not see the results that we wanted because of the rebasing token. So what we've always talked about is all of these tools are useful when they're used properly. And so we are ecstatic now to be able to use buybacks and burns in a situation or in a scenario where they can be more effective. So that's why you are seeing them brought back now and why they are becoming a center element of the Swych protocol.
Yeah. All right. Beautiful. Another thing to talk about as well, just because while we're on the topic here of elements of Swych and things like that, and kind of what we're transitioning and what we're doing on everything here. I've seen some questions just in the chat on. I just wanted to address really quickly because I've seen like 6 people ask the same thing on there. Is there any type of staking, like fee or exit fees or anything like that, or lock fees? There is not. Okay. I just wanted to quickly say that there is no lock fees. A minor tax on exit, but no locked in. Okay, and it's a fixed APY on that as well. So just something to quickly add, and we'll bounce back on that again as we talk a little bit more. But something I just wanted to quickly add because I saw a ton of people asking about that in there.
Yeah, and it's also auto compounding, Summit. So that means people don't have to claim and then restake and claim and restake. You just put it in and it will auto compound to that APY that we've spoken about.
Right. And and Summit, did you say a fixed APY?
I said fixed APY, that exciting fixedness.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure. Happy to hear that.
Yes. Awesome. So anything else? I'm trying to look at our talk of everything related here as far as migration side, conversion side. I don't think there's too much else on that side of things. I guess I just want to kind of quickly recap everything migration, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Please.
Awesome. So migration-wise, as far as going from Titano to Swych, That migration, like we said, will occur between March 6th and March 13th. Everybody gets the USD value of that, okay? So whatever value you hold right now will be what you transition with over to Switch. TSP play, all of that is included within that snapshot process, so you don't have to do anything. There's nothing you have to do in this migration at all. It will all be automatic. Oh, go on.
I'm sorry, Summit, except remember, you're going to have to add the new Switch token to your wallet.
Yes, you will have to add the new Switch token in your wallet.
Right.
And that contract will be posted the day that Switch comes out. So once that, we get that token address out there, that's all you'll have to do to see that token in your wallet. But besides that, nothing that you're going to have to do. The process of that is trading will stop on Titano. A snapshot will be taken of the holdings. The tokens will then be airdropped to everybody, and then trading will open up from there. Once we get trading opened up, we're going to be having those consistent burns every 24 to 72 hours to bump up that price and give good benefits to everybody. Okay. So that'll be really great there. Anybody who migrates over from Titano to Switch will be getting the ground floor pricing of the Switch token, which is huge. You could think of that almost like, people getting in the ground floor of any project or pre-sale. Okay. That is a huge benefit right there. And then, of course, by doing this USD value, we're reducing that inflation. We're making it more sustainable. We're backing it, truly with what we have on everything there. So it's going to be an exciting migration. It's going to be an easy migration, and it's going to set the tone for the future. There's a lot coming in the future. There's a lot of exciting things that are going to be happening, which I think leads into kind of what we can go into next.
Excellent. Great job.
Now, as far as nextness here, I know everybody like that pause. Who wants to say the word next?
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, just before we move on to those things, I don't actually know exactly what you're going to say, but in terms of leading up to this migration, leading up to the launch, leading up to those first few weeks of trading the Switch token, and again, we're always thinking about our Titans as well. People ask what we do for the long-term holders. Well, this is all for the long-term holders. In fact, this migration, and the buybacks will be for the long-term holders because they'll still be in the project. They'll get, as you say, they'll get Switch from day one, and we will of course be marketing. So we've been working with Ninja, as everyone knows, Ninja Promo. Great team over there. They've prepared a full suite of marketing for the launch of Switch. So we've got a lot of ads going out. We've got our socials ready to pump out all the information that people need to invest to get excited about it. We've got our internal team doing the same thing. So that's Impossible and Triton and several other members. And they're all putting together materials. They're also working on a longer term plan to create more networks within the space. That's other projects, influencers. Speaking more about this later, but it will look a lot like a whole suite of media tools to get us out there so people can learn more about what we're doing here at Switch. So remember that this Switch token will underpin and lie at the heart of everything in the Switch ecosystem. And we are doing everything to make sure that projects know about the space, projects know about our ecosystem, about what we're doing, about our active decks, how we can support them. And we're building all the tools to be able to do so. So yes, a lot is going on behind the scenes. We've been preparing for this, and excited to show you. You'll start seeing, you may or you may not start seeing ads in the next 2 weeks, and that's only because if you're already here, then you probably won't notice them. But they are going out, and we're putting them in places where we expect to see new buyers coming in, new investors coming in, and reaching out to whole new audiences. Yeah, so very excited about that, guys.
Excellent.
Beautiful. All right. Who's echoing? Now, as far as things moving forward, next steps type of things, we could kind of talk about like I said, I know we talked about staking already and kind of that stuff coming out there. Of course, we obviously have the entire Switch DEX, right? One of the key elements and key factors in transitioning here is, we have this huge DEX, right? I think people are also forgetting that there's this underlying level that will bring huge value. With trading fees, with bringing other tokens on, opening up that launch pad to allow people to come across, having just incubations and things like that come with all of Switch as an ecosystem. It's important to remind everybody that we are still an ecosystem. We still have utilities. We still have lottery. We still have, you know, many more things that are coming. I don't know, David, if you want to touch a little bit on things that are coming even more, or if we just kind of want to.
I know there have been some discussions, and I wanted to make, perhaps this is a good time to have this discussion around why Titano is moving from a rebasing token to a DEX. I'd like to give a little bit of sort of backdrop on that, how we got here, and why we believe that this is the way forward. One of the challenges with Titano and talking with new people was constantly having to explain who we are, what we're doing, and where we're going. Right? That was constant because, people either didn't have any information about a rebasing token or had information about a rebasing token and was negative. And so quite often, what our attraction was in the beginning was this high APY and people going, wow, I'll take a shot on that. But as time went on, as I mentioned earlier, it became more difficult to win over against these arguments. And so in looking at where do we go from here, there's a bunch of choices. Do we become a tomb fork? Do we become some other degen play? And we looked at what Switch was doing, right? The DEX was doing. And we looked at it and said, is there a way to use this as our value creator? Right now, there are many DEXs, right? There are many DEXs on the Binance Smart Chain. I think yesterday I was talking about this in the AMA that I did. I think Switch was number 16. I think I could be off by one or two. And their coin market cap was tracking, I think, 43 or 45 DEXs on Binance Smart Chain. I think it tracks 300 across all of the blockchains, but there's certainly more than that. So in looking at that, the question we were asking ourselves is, can we build a business around this product that stands out amongst the other businesses, amongst the other DEXs? And if we can, what is it? And so a considerable amount of time was put into answering that question. And we walked away with that we felt there were great opportunities within the DEX space that just weren't being pursued or being pursued well. And I talked about how if you go back and read the article that came out about Switch about a month ago, talking about how we're positioning ourselves, it gives you some insight into what we were seeing. Now, this data, this article was written based on conversations that the team was having with other projects. Right? As we were going around talking to projects about listing on Switch, we were getting certain feedback about what projects needed that would make them feel comfortable to move over, right? Or what new projects needed in order to make them feel comfortable while coming onto a new DEX. Part of the issue was, as I mentioned earlier, was Titano. So it was kind of like, well, we don't know about your underlying project, so we're not too sure. And it's the bear market. We don't want to take this kind of a risk and blah, blah, blah. So what we were doing was we were constantly modifying our offer, our pitch to other projects. Well, what about this? And what's that? And what we walked away with was there's this amazing deficit in this space for projects. Let me give you some statistics. More than 90% of all crypto projects fail in the first 90 days. Let me say it again. More than 90% of all crypto projects fail within the first 90 days of their launch. That's an amazing number, right? So we knew that number, and we began to question, well, why? Well, don't get me wrong, certainly a good percentage of those projects are rug pulls, meaning they never really intended to sustain. But believe it or not, that's nowhere near the biggest category, right? The biggest category is people don't understand how to build a project, right? People don't have access to funding. People don't have access to tools that are needed, marketing, use cases, all these amazing things that are needed to build your project. You just don't have access to them. So we looked at this DEX and we said, you know what? It's interesting. If you kind of look at crypto, at the critical components of crypto, right? There are a few that are seeking to be hubs for the entire crypto space, right? One of them is wallets, right? Wallets are seeking to, they're adding more and more services. They want you to constantly go back and forth to your wallet. Well, the DEX is the same thing. It's trying to, or it has the potential to be a center, a hub for activity as you move around the crypto space. Now, it does already to a certain extent, right? More so to users than to projects, but projects create users. So what we walked away with was, we don't just want another DEX. We want to innovate. We want to innovate this space. So what I've been saying to people is, what we found is we feel we can innovate what a DEX is. We can turn a DEX into the hub for projects looking to launch or looking to sustain within the Binance Smart Chain. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mentioned earlier, and you saw some of it happen with Unico. Unico was a project that launched, and it didn't really have a fully formed protocol. And the guys came in and they offered some insight into what could happen. Then we offered liquidity, right? And it was an interesting process that we went through as a result of doing it. And what we were finding was we were not just helping a project to sustain and launch well, but we were also creating partners, right? If you go back, I've been having this discussion so long about we need to have partners. We need to be able to move through this space powerfully, right? They can help us. We can help them. They can see things that we don't. They can market for us in ways that we can't. So all of a sudden, this idea around the DEX was, you know what? This is something where we could innovate and turn the DEX into the hub of these types of activities. So John mentioned earlier, we're talking about an active DEX. If you think of the way that users and projects interact with the DEX just sits there. It's a static website. You go in, you swap a token, you leave. You go in, you try to get some liquidity, you leave. Imagine if that DEX was much more active than that, right? And imagine for projects, if the DEX had bespoke or custom services and products that were able to help it launch better and grow. That's how we see an opportunity for Switch within the world of DEXs. If a project launches on Pink Sale, right? They get some, they pay Pink Sale some money. They do their best. Pink Sale might market a little bit, charge them a little more money. And then once it's out, they're gone and they're off and this project is on its own. We believe that there's an opportunity, right, to help projects sustain more. Right? We want to bite into that 90% that fail. And in that, there's tremendous value, not just in the fees and everything else that we gain, but also, and as I mentioned, creating these partners in this ecosystem that then ends up being a better investment opportunity for holders. So, as I'm saying this, I think you can tie it into when I said this is an extension of Titano. We talked about these ideas with Titano. Right? We just didn't have the foundation in order to execute them. So the idea in moving to a DEX, which again sits at the center of crypto, and even more so because of what's happening with centralized exchanges. People are looking more at DEXs because they don't trust these centralized exchanges because so many of them have failed lately. So this is how we position ourselves uniquely and powerful in the space. We innovated. Titano's an innovation company, and without our ability or our belief that we could innovate it, we wouldn't be in this DEX space. But we are here. Now, let me add one thing to this summit, which is important. This is not just me talking. This is us modifying our approach and taking it out and talking with people and then seeing the responses, talking with projects and then seeing the responses. Imagine our being able to, for instance, modify fees and modify anything within our capabilities, our incubation capabilities, our launch capabilities, and our consistent DEX capabilities to fit the project. We want to work with you and see what you guys need, and let Swych morph itself or change itself around your needs. And that's what you're going to consider. That's what you're going to look for in a DEX, and we're going to be the ones who are offering it. Questions, guys, or additional comments?
No questions from me. No, but 100% agree. And with everything that you went through and said on that there.
You know, I guess the question that people will be asking, the pertinent one, based on what you've said, David, is you know, how, you know, you talk about doing all these things and this great vision, but how are we going to actually generate revenue to pay the staking, or you know, how do we not end up in the same situation where you have this inflationary token, right? So we start with
Excellent.
a cent per token, but then it just goes down because it's still inflating because of all these things. I mean, how do we answer that one, guys?
Good question.
Yeah.
Somebody take it on.
I think we can straight off say that, you know, this is still a distribution phase. You know, this is, you know, when we're having this slight, you know, inflationary elements that are going on, this is still a distribution phase. Okay. So once that distribution phase ends, okay, once we get rid of that, I guess you could say, you know, inflationary or degenerate. Oh, go on. I'm sorry, John.
No. I was going to just chime in, but no, you're absolutely right. Go on.
You know, those elements there, you know, that distribution phase ends. Okay. And after that distribution phase ends, you know, then it becomes the focus of the volume, the yield that we bring in. You know, do we look towards getting listed on a centralized exchange, things like that, you know. And when we're bringing in, you know, what we'll be working on, you know, over these, because right now, like I said, we're still working on getting a quarter two roadmap, and there's a lot of exciting things that are, you know, already getting put on it. You know, we're working on creating even new streams of value and revenue for people to be able to get through the, you know, Swych token and Swych exchange and all of that there. But as of right now, this initial launch of the Swych token is a distribution phase. Okay. You know, once that distribution phase comes to an end, we don't have to really work about that inflationary element or those inflationary issues that are coming in at that point there. Let me go ahead and say that I think the goal at the end is always to remove those elements that become inflation, become deflationary, and become something that can be listed every and anywhere. And that's, you know, that's the end game goal that we really have, is to remove those elements there, become a token that can be listed on a centralized exchange, and create value in so many different ways.
Fantastic. So what you're saying, Summit, is we have an initial distribution phase when the project launches, when the token launches, and that's when you can get in, as we keep coming back to. And we're trying to hint, we don't want to, you know, give financial advice. It's not what we're here to do, and we won't do it. But we are trying to hint at the fact that you get in at the ground floor. There's 300 to 500% on the staking. There's no lock on the staking. There's a small exit percentage, but that's it. And this initial phase is when you will get those tokens, and after that, that's it, right? That's it. There's no more inflation. So you've got about
Right.
how long is this inflationary or this distribution phase? Can you tell us?
I believe we're looking at a distribution phase of about, I would say, 40 to 60 days. I think that's a solid number there.
That's amazing. So basically what you're saying is you have 40 to 60 days to really establish yourself as part of this ecosystem where you can earn those rewards, and then after that it's no longer going to be inflationary. After that, any buyback and burn is completely deflationary, in fact, and of course those things will continue to happen. And after that, the token will be really well positioned to, if we wanted to, or if that was the case, move to things like centralized exchange or listing or something, right?
Correct.
Amazing.
That's absolutely correct.
And
That's
further to that,
correct.
guys. Sorry, Dave, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, yeah, all of the elements, to be clear, that would limit us from being listed on exchange that are in place during the distribution phase will be removed. Just
That's
wanted to make
interesting.
that clear.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Um, and further to that, guys, I mean, people are talking about, so how are you going to generate revenue? You know, is this going
Mm,
to be a revenue generating DEX? Previously, we saw elements such as TSP, such as Play, you know, all those other things being having a deflationary effect. Yes, they helped, but will we have something that can really drive revenue? I think that's a lot of, you know, a lot of people are asking this question, and do
mm.
we have an answer for this?
Yeah, we do. Well, the same elements that we saw, right, in Switch, lottery, and play, we moved over to the decks. Um, and one of the things that I said earlier, and we've all said it in different ways, is, you know, because of the weighing down of the Titano token, it made, in fact, you know, when we saw the lottery come out the way that it did, with all of the amazingly positive elements, right? Whether it's the, you know, win a Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT, and, you know, it's over $200,000, but the reception of it was muted at best, right? It was further confirmation that, you know, the Titano token is weighing down all of our use cases. So we expect with a more positive um, project and you know, this token that we're talking about, this Switch token, even the current use cases will generate more revenue because people won't be as concerned about, well, yeah, I'm going to put my tokens in there, but they're going to be half the value by the time I take out, which is going to, you know, blunt any winnings that I have. So, you know, this is one element I wanted to make sure that got said about this, about revenue, John. Yeah, do you have any others on your mind?
Yes, yes. I think I was gonna. Very, very good points, David. You know, very, very good points. And I think some of the questions people are asking are, well, are those things are, you know, they're not genuinely revenue creation. They're
Mm,
just, you know, they're helping with the deflation previously. But Summit, I believe there's talk of something shortly after launch. In fact, that
uh-oh.
will generate revenue as well. It's quite a big deal.
Oh gosh, do I get to
Ah,
say it?
Well, you know, David and I get to say a lot of fun stuff, and a lot of people.
right.
David, what do you think? Should Summit get to say it?
Yeah, I think he should get to say it. I know he's itching to say it. So yeah,
Oh
please
boy.
go ahead.
All right. So shortly after, I would say, the launch of Switch Token, I think we're going to see probably in, you know, within quarter 1, Switch Token will also receive, it will become a perpetual DEX, which will
Mm,
offer real yield. So that will be something that is super duper duper exciting, that I am personally excited for. Um,
mm,
Real yield is, and real, you know, value that you're going to be getting out of things like that, um, is huge. We're working on getting that type of stuff implemented. I would say, John, what would you say?
Yeah,
Mid?
I think the guys are ready. So all the coding's ready to go. Again, you know, just waiting on the audits and making sure everything ties in. Obviously, we have to launch Switch token first and make sure everything's up and running. But the guys want to get this perpetual DEX up and running very soon after. So as soon as really, definitely first quarter. That is the goal.
mm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
John, I don't know. You're the
Excellent.
tokenomics guy. If you could talk a little bit about what a perpetual DEX is, maybe briefly explain it better than I would be able to.
Well, in this, well, not really. I mean, I'm sure you've done a fantastic job just now. I think everyone understands it. But it's a perpetual DEX with protocol-owned liquidity. And what will happen is 50% of the fees will be returned to the perpetual liquidity, and then 50% will be distributed to the Switch token holders, and that's real yield. So you're going to
Mm,
hear us talk about this again and again, but this is real yield. This is real revenue, real yield. People will come here to use this perpetual DEX, and they'll start accruing fees when they use it, and half of those fees will be going straight back to Switch token holders. Now, this is huge. I mean, I don't know if you guys know about what kind of fees they generate, but to give you an idea, there's a project that launched recently called Level.Finance. You can take a look at them. Their trading volume and accrued fees are huge, absolutely huge. They started a couple of months ago, a couple of thousand active users, and I believe they've just celebrated $1 billion as trading volume, and that's more than 1.3 to 1.8 million worth of fees in less than 60 days. Even if we capture a tiny portion of that market, and it's such a huge market, even if we capture a tiny portion of that, what you're getting as a Swych token holder, 50% of those fees, that's significant, very significant. Bear in mind as well that after the initial distribution phase of that Swych token, the 40 to 60 days, it won't be inflation anymore. So whatever you have is, if it's creating value, if the DEX is creating value, if the perpetual DEX is creating value, real yield, again, let's bring that word back in, real yield, if it's real yield, those fees are actually coming back to you, and you'll see it as actual revenue. And this is the first time that the guys have been able to do this, and it really helps to explain. I know we set this up and people wonder why, you know, David might have given us this background. Well, it's so important to understand why we've moved from that previous token, which we all loved, right? It did amazing things and changed so many lives. And I think that's sometimes lost as well. I just want to come back very briefly, but you know, a lot of the people that are still in Titano, the louder voices are sometimes saying, "Oh, you know, I've lost so much money." We understand, you know. I'm sure David, yourself, me, Summit, we all held. You know, we haven't been selling our Titano. We hold, and we can see that the value's dropped, but it's hard to appreciate and sometimes easy to forget that Titano has created millionaires and given profit to a lot of people. There are a lot of people in the project that have taken profit and are sitting comfortably taking passive income. So it's done a lot, and there's a small proportion that it's not done so well for. And that's timing, that's the market. You invest, sometimes things go up, and unfortunately things have gone down and you haven't made that money back. But here, okay, now this is a different thing. Now with Swych, we can really change the game. We have real yield products coming through. Perpetual DEX is the first one, and it is a huge, huge, huge potential project, right? This is going to change everything we do because it brings in real money. And also it is extremely marketable because this space, people are crying out for decentralized perpetual exchanges. You know, you don't want to put your money on a centralized perpetual exchange because you don't know what's going to happen to them. They're disappearing once a month. But here, it's decentralized. You put your money in, you can make your money back, you can trade, you trade with leverage, you can really see where the value is going to come from here. So this is what I was really excited about today to talk about. I was excited to talk about the staking as well, and the inflationary, the removal of the inflationary period at the start. But this is the icing on the cake for me. This is a real revenue.
Fantastic.
Love it. See, John, I knew you had a better.
Yeah, John getting excited gets all of us excited. I wanted to Summit. There's been a lot of discussions. I know you and I have been in them, where John mentioned it. A lot of the holders are down, and it's understandable. It is, of course, concerning for us, and we're hoping that Titans can see what's been designed right now is focused squarely on that. It's focused squarely on bringing more value on taking direct aim at the token price, on eliminating inflation, right? All of these issues that have been at the center of so many conversations. What's critical, though, is that you have to accept sometimes that the method and the way that you would approach these issues, they aren't necessarily the best ways, right? The guys know the protocol. The guys know how to move this thing around. And as John said earlier, this is a big ship that we're on, right? We can't make fast turns. We have to, bring people along. We've got to, move things a little bit more steadily and slowly so people don't get terrified of what's going on. And all of that has had to happen, under the heading of we need to make substantial changes. So when I say that this has been months of work, it really has been, right? Not only just coming up with elements and, John, you can attest, there are some spirited conversations. This is what we're thinking. Oh, you're not doing that. Go back to the drawing board and let's. And they have just consistently come up with amazing ideas that take into account every element that's critical and important to this project, right? And at the heart of it, bringing value to the holders. So yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to see. And even yesterday, I was on with the Titan, and he was like, "Well, I'm not so sure." And I said, "Listen, hear us out. Hear us out. I guarantee you that you will see that the things that you're concerned about we're laser focused on, right? Because I know." I think there's this misconception, John, about like the tone of the conversations we all have with each other. They're certainly civil, but they're definitely, what's the best word? They're definitely confrontational, if you will, or they're definitely, look, guys, this is not going to go over well. This doesn't, this is not something we can come up with a better way, come up with a different way. I am ecstatic with what they've come up with. We have moved. I said this yesterday. We're moving this project from a DGen fringe project to a heart of DeFi project. That's what's happening. And there's no downside to it. There's only upside. There's only upside in what we're doing. And, to me, that can't help but be exciting. So I say to people, as you're going through these emotions, don't lose sight of that, because that's what's going to come out of this. In addition to that, where we are positioned, right, in the crypto market, right, going into this halving period, if we time this right, the sky's the limit. If we time this right. So yeah, I'm glad to hear you, John, talk about real yield, real revenue, because that gives, for me, like the biggest indication of what we're seeing. Where do we move next? And this is where we have to move to. So again, my hat's off to the guys. They are amazingly excited about these new developments, and I hope the community is too as well.
Yeah,
very
So
well
again,
said. That's yeah, really fantastic. And I think sometimes, and I really love the insight you gave into the guys as well, the devs, the founders here. It's their project, right? That they've been building, they've been working on. And credit to them, they're always listening. I mean, we're in the same chat with them guys, and they're always coming back saying, "Oh, we saw this, we read this, we heard this," and
right.
and they're constantly coming back to us with, where we want to do this, we want to try this. They're constantly coming with new ideas and things they want to do. And as I said it from the start, everything's on the table. Everything's on the table. They've looked at every single possible thing that other projects are doing. So when someone brings up, "Oh, this project over here is doing X, Y, and Z," they've looked at it. They have, or they will look at it if they've seen your comments, and they do read everything.
Right.
They're fantastic. And the great thing is they can build anything. So what I'm excited about is the things they've chosen to attack. They're the big thing. They're the things that you'd be hesitant about, because you're saying, "Oh, why don't we just pivot here? Why don't we just reduce the amount of rebasing?" That's an easy thing, right? Why don't we just increase the tax or decrease the tax? Why don't we do this or that? Just nudge or edge Titano a certain way. But no, as you said, David, the changes they've made, and I want to be very careful about my words here, but the changes they've made position us in the future so that, as you said, David, the sky's the limit. We could be very central to DeFi. The changes they've made allow for that. And the things they're taking on are big things. So this is a big change for everyone, and it is unsettling. I understand that. As an investor, to hear it, it is unsettling. But I hope in today's talk that we've had today, people can start to see, oh, hang on, real yield, they're attacking major DeFi products here. This is a perpetual DEX we're talking about. And if you look at the competitors, look at what they're making, as I said, even if we capture 1% of this market, the Swych token is going to fly. Now, other things, removing all those other elements to position this token so that we could be listable on a major exchange, that's down the line, but that's a major thing. And that is how we're being positioned. So I want everyone to see that, as you're saying, David, and you said it so much better than I've just said it, but I really wanted to reiterate there is a direction we're heading in. And for me, it's very exciting.
Got it. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well said. Both of you guys. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think here. Look, I don't know if there's anything else I have to add, unless there's something you guys want to add.
How are we doing? How are we doing on questions? Anything you're seeing there that we didn't cover?
Yeah. Anything lingering? I'm not sure.
As far as question wise, I think a lot of people were asking about the conversion. Why USD value? I know we talked about that a little bit. I don't know if I could. I think there's still some questions that were about that. Hear those watermark drops.
The other thing is, the other one I saw was partnerships, and David, Summit, you guys are always looking at applications, right? And so those things
Yes.
took a bit of been put aside for a second, but we're still talking with all those people, right? I mean, maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I'd like to.
Oh, go on, David.
I'm sorry, please. No. Go ahead. I'll go after you. Something.
No,
Sorry, partners and listings,
partners and listings. Yeah. I mean, I've spoken to quite a few projects, quite a few. And a lot of them are very excited to get listed on Switch and bring, liquidity over to Switch, partner with Switch, different ways. And, when this whole transition period going on, I think, we're kind of like, hey, let us, give us a little additional time as we get through this transitional period while we migrate over to the Switch token and get from there, because there's a lot of logistics that go with that. So, we wanted to focus on that and then look towards, all right, let's really hammer down and get in on the listings and the partnerships and things like that. But the good news is a lot of those people and all those contacts still very much want to be listed on Switch. It just kind of comes down to getting that process going, the excitement around it. It's still very much there, but getting them back in and getting that going from there. I know we've recently had a few discussions with potential partners, and things have been very exciting with things there. I don't want to say anything yet because nothing's finalized until it's finalized. It's you never know until the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. But we've had a lot of exciting and interesting discussions over the past months.
Right.
And I think we're kind of finally getting to that point here where it's, we're in a position where those discussions can become realities, and we can make those listings a lot easier for people and make those listings, get those projects listed up on Switch a lot quicker. So, I mean, as far as the partnership side and the listing side, that's kind of what I have to say. David, I'll transfer it over to you if you want to go from there.
Yeah. I've had this conversation quite a bit with Titans, especially some of our bigger holders, what's going on. And what we found in the dozens of conversations that we've had, and there have been dozens, is most of the projects that approached us, remember, we initially, with regard to Switch, wanted to manage the quality going on to Switch, because particularly in light of what had happened with Titano and where the sentiment was around the project, we didn't want Switch to have a similar sort of negative sentiment, right? We didn't want there to be well, look at this. Now they've listed, now they've opened up a DEX and it's just, just listing all of these garbage projects, and so these people don't know quality. So what we did was became even more scrutinizing of projects that have approached us. And it's been interesting. It really has been interesting. And then this was during our developing what Switch was going to be, and it actually pushed us more in the direction of some of the things that you're hearing, right? We need to be self-sustaining to a certain extent. We need to be able to create our own success as we build out this active DEX component of Switch. And so they reached a point in time where it was like, well, wait a minute, we need to figure out what Switch is before we can even tell projects how we can interact with them. And along with all of that came this conversation around this permissionless portion of the DEX. And a couple people came to me and said, well, why don't you guys release that now so people can just list? And it was a similar thing. Well, do we want potentially, these projects, which may not have been very good, to determine our positioning in the marketplace, or do we want to do it? I mean, suppose we just said permissionless and then we became, pink sale 2 with all of these really bad projects coming through, and people go, well, I know that Dex, there's nothing there. So this approach speaks to our long-term approach, right? This wasn't just about, hey, let's quickly move things over and potentially ruin everything. As we're talking with you about the Dex and the potential of it, you can see it's a valuable tool for us. It's the central tool for us. So with that being said, conversations are continuing. And now that we're getting out the tokenomics and the understanding specifically of what Swych is, right, those conversations will move forward. And the setting up of this permissionless component of the DEX is moving forward. I think if we're talking about, this area, and Summit, you kind of alluded to it, there are partnerships coming that, when we're talking about the sort of the grand vision and where we're going, there are partnerships coming that will demonstrate exactly why that's not only possible, but that it's likely imminent. So conversations continue, and moving forward, we are moving as quickly as we can. Again, post tokenomics being solidified to move projects towards Swych, and then the permissionless part of Swych will be there as well. In addition to that, not just projects that are looking to list, but also partnerships, right? Partnerships get us into different communities, right? They give us access to potential additional use cases. So there's a lot of value in that, and those conversations are ongoing as well. And now that, again, the ecosystem is moving towards Swych, it's going to be easier, simpler to set up relationships with partners. So that's my 2 cents on the topic. And ironically enough, I was in a meeting today, before this AMA, with a potential partner that I think is going to be amazing, right, with what we're doing. And it's not one that you guys know, by the way. I'm talking to you, Summit, and John. But anyway, actually, John, you know it. But yeah, so exciting things happening on that front, and it's a lot of good things set up to move forward with us in that area.
Yeah, that's so exciting, guys. I'm excited. But I think going back to what you said earlier, David, about when we used to talk to people about Titano and we had to explain certain things and it became confusing. It's
Right.
it's a tricky token, tricky mechanics. Just to explain everything, you can't just sit down and say, buy this token, and if it goes up, it goes up, and it goes down, it goes down, because there's stuff going on with it, right? There's some rebasing, and you're getting more tokens, and try and explain that to someone who doesn't understand crypto. It's tough. Similarly, when you go to partner with other people and you try and create relationships with them, you have to explain all that again. So it hasn't stopped those conversations from happening, but moving forward, it's so much easier. It's so much easier, and we can reach out to more people, and they can reach out to their communities, and everyone can see value instantly. It makes life a much smoother journey for us.
Yes, indeed, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Summit, any more questions you're seeing that we haven't covered?
Let me see here. I'm just going through the chat. It looks like some of the stuff has already been answered, kind of what we talked about. I'm just double checking and going through things here. And I think we expect there to be still a good chunk of questions. I think
Yes.
there's a lot to digest. There's a lot of information. Obviously, there'll be a recap, in text of the Titan talk that'll be put out. So, people can go back and check out from there. But it's also important to highlight here that this is just one of many Titan talks we'll be doing. But specifically, we'll be having another one that goes more in depth, I would say, on the tokenomics, how things will work.
Right.
All of the logistics, I would say.
Right.
we had some great talk and some great information now, but there's just a lot of information. We could have a Titan talk that lasts 4.5 hours, going through
Right.
everything. And I don't know if anybody would
Yeah.
go back and watch that, so you cut it up a little bit and try to, separate it so that you can check little things out here and there. Um,
Right.
but I
Yeah. Let
don't
me add
see
one thing to that.
anything crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I was
sorry. I
just going to
just
say, I
want
don't
to.
see any other really huge questions here. Go for it. All you guys at this
Yeah.
point.
The other thing I wanted to add is John said it earlier, and that is that things are under audit, and what that might mean is there might be some slight changes. So some of the questions that people might have, we just may not have the specific answer for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're just waiting to kind of make sure that it passes audit, or that it gets modified as a result of audit. So bear with us on that. And yeah, that might be why certain specifics just haven't been presented right now.
Yeah. I guess if that's there, we can also just quickly do a recap on what we just talked about. Maybe recap
Okay.
everything, all the key elements of everything here. I know we've recapped a few times, but it's just because there is so much information, and for
Yeah.
people hopping in or joining in, it's good just to get that really quickly. So I'm going to do this as fast as I can. Here we go. All right. Between March 6th and March 13th, we will see the migration to the Switch token. That will be at a USD value. So whatever your value currently is, you'll get that in USD value across from there. The starting price is going to be 1 cent. Okay. And that's the reason why USD value is because, we have to be able to back the value that we have at that launch price there. As far as how that migration will work, the only thing that you have to do is add the new contract once it comes out. Besides that, everything is automatic. Play, TSP, your tokens, all of that are accounted for automatically in a snapshot, and you don't have to do anything aside from add that contract in there. That contract, of course, will be posted on that migration day, or at least very close to migration day. Now the process will be trading will stop. You will then have a snapshot taken, tokens airdropped, and trading will resume. After that point there, the trading will open up. We'll see buyback burns that happen every 24 to 72 hours to nice bolster that price on there, which is really, really exciting for that. I know a lot of people were asking things about that there. From the point of after that with the buyback burns and kind of that migration process, we talked a little bit about future. What does Switch look like in the future? Introducing a perpetual DEX. Bringing real yield. 50% of those fees coming back to Switch holders. We talked about staking, how it's going to have between 300 and 500%. No fees for you to lock up your tokens. The only thing that there'll be is a small exit fee, but you don't have to lock your tokens for a set amount of time on something like that. We also talked about just kind of the future with working towards becoming at some point get on a centralized exchange for the token. But the biggest thing is the phase that we're in right now is that distribution phase, lasting anywhere between 40 and 60 days. And once that distribution phase ends, we transition into a token that brings real yield, real value everywhere that we go. That is, I think, the nicest summary that I can do without making it sound too copycat nonstop. But of course, like I said, we're going to have those text versions, and people can always go back and rewatch this as well.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Titans. I want to give a special shout out to the mods who have been fielding questions, comments, criticisms, and everything else regarding all of this. Change is never easy, right? And when things are down or not as you hope, it makes things even more difficult. And the mods have a tough job, right? Because they have to field questions, they have to deal with people that may not be happy, they have to deal with accusations, they have to deal with all of these things. And I've always said about them, they have the most difficult job in any project, right? Because they have to take all of this on, and they have to be consistent. They have to answer the same question sometimes 50 times, and they have to be as exuberant on number 49 as they were on number 2 of answering that question. And if not, then the holder might get upset. Well, I don't like the tone. I don't like the way you said that. I don't want to go look at, the pinned messages. I want you to tell me. So they have a tough job. And through that all, their primary job is to do everything possible to maintain the integrity of this project, which maintains the integrity of your investment. So, they've done a great job, and they're humans, so they're not always going to be perfect. But I'm really, really amazed and thankful for what they're doing and how they've gotten this community through this, and continue to just be extraordinarily excited about the future. And by the way, you guys should know they ask us as questions that are sometimes more difficult than the ones you guys are asking, because they're on both sides. They're hearing us and they're hearing you guys. And so that's appreciated. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them, and a note of appreciation for what they're doing, helping us to get through here. A lot of our mods have been with us for a long time, and they've seen so much go on. They have the benefit of being in additional conversations and coming directly to us about things. So you guys are really, really appreciated. The other thing I wanted to say is, I've tried for the last 2 months when I've been in the chats to constantly bring up this topic about change, right? Change is an inevitability, and we all want it. We all need it, particularly in a crypto project, because the space changes all the time. And so, what I wanted to do when we realized that this was going to be a significant change was just to remind people, right, that we're in a space that's constantly changing. We have to change with it, or we'll be left behind. And I knew, because of the elements of the project, right, there's a lot of nervousness around any change. Didn't matter. And so what I tried and continue to get people to focus on is, like, let's use rebase as an example. You're not in love with rebasing. You're in love with the value that rebasing brings you, right? That's the discussion. So it's our job, right, to constantly bring you value, right? And if something's not working, rebasing included, then that's just not a viable tool. So I try and redirect all of the energy onto something that is happening, right? One more thing, and that is I've gotten not quite often, but occasionally people saying, well, the problem with Titano is you guys never take responsibility for mistakes that you've made. Let me say unequivocally, we have made a ton of mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not pushing hard enough. Let me tell you what I don't do. I don't make a mistake and just sit there. See, I'm one of those people that believes it's not how you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. And we keep getting up. So for those who want me to just go, oh my God, it's over, you're never going to get that out of me. And I'm never going to allow it to anyone around me. That's one of the things that I love about this team. Something bad happens, we make a miscalculation, we make a mistake. There have been many of them, big ones. But what do? How do we fix it? I look at it like this. There's only two outcomes. The first is you reach your goal. The second is you learn and you use what you've learned to do better the next time. This is a difficult space. When people don't give me a break, what I always say to them is start your own project. Then you will understand how challenging this is, how tough it is. Like I told you earlier, more than 90% of projects fail within the first 90 days of launch. We're at 15 months with this project, right? This is not easy. What I also remind people of is you go to your favorite crypto project and you tell me how long it took them to move up into a positive phase. Some of these projects took years before they turned any reasonable profit. So we're not outliers here. We've said this is a long-term venture and it will go through many changes. And it may not look a whole lot like it started when we get to where we want to go. Another question I got is, when will this project mature? When will Swych mature? And I can't answer that question because it's a difficult question. But what I can say is there's been a lot of maturity. We used to have an issue getting things developed. I'm sure you all remember that. What? Another delay? Well, guess what? The last few things have been on time or ahead of schedule, right? That's maturity. That's progress. right? We had issues with marketing, right? For one point, we went out, we created an internal marketing division. We went out and got one of the best crypto digital marketing companies in the world, and they're working with us. That's a response to, we got to get better, right? We've made things more efficient. We filled out the team. All of those things you don't see, but they're making a difference, right? Having this additional input for people that we're involved with, higher quality people, it takes time. But what I can say to you is, based on the feedback that we're getting, based on the partners that are coming, based on the conversations that are now active, it's paying off. Not always something you can see, not always something that immediately translates into price, but consistency and forward motion and ocean, these are the foundational pieces. So I want us all to consider this, right? When you think about things that you didn't like or things that happened that you didn't agree with, I get it. But overall, the mission that started here and that continues is always the same. Bring the Titans value, build an amazing project, focusing on innovation, and set the trends. So that's where we've been, and that's where we're going. And that answers that other question about, is this a different project? Same project, same exact project. We are ecstatic to bring these changes to you guys. We are humbled by you guys giving us the chance to move this vision along on your behalf, and we're committed to get there, right? Again, and on my final note, everyone involved is as enthusiastic as they were when they got here. And I can't overstate how important that is. No one's being dragged along. Everyone's excited. I am more excited now by us using what we've got to create this vision that we're talking about than any time I've been in this project. That's my personal feeling. And I pay close attention, and I'm here every day talking to just about everybody. So with that being said, as I've told people, because a lot of people come to me, well, I don't know what to do. I don't give investment advice, but I can tell you what we're doing and what we're focused on. We're focused on winning. And, until we reach that point, we're going to be working hard. So that's what you can count on from us. As always, your comments, questions, criticism, all of it is appreciated. The one thing I will say is, again, when you're with the mods or talking with us, please just be mindful. It's not about trying to silence anyone, or you don't want to hear comments or anything like that. This is not Facebook, and this is not Twitter. This is where your investments are. And that chat is for you to have conversation. Remember, you're partially responsible for what happens here. It's not just us. You can say something, and I've said this before, I've been in projects where a conversation based on misinformation has sunk a project. I was in the whale chat a couple of weeks ago, I'm not going to mention any specifics, and a conversation came and it took root, and it was based on nothing. Someone couldn't read a blockchain, and it was all this information around Titano, and I was sitting there, well, David, you don't want to answer. I have no idea what you're talking about. Now, if that person would have been banned by me, it would have been, well, you don't want to hear this. The reality of it is that this stuff is difficult. And just like I've said before, some things, that are being worked on, they take time, right? So for instance, a guy following the blockchain going, well, you guys just removed this. Why'd you do it? Well, maybe that's part of a long-term agenda. Well, you're just covering up for the devs. Look, I've been here 100 times before. Like I remind people, when we moved to V2 and it was all of these questions around liquidity, well, what happened to it? What happened to it? The devs are going to move it over. No, they stole it. Well, then they moved it over. No one came back and said, oh, wow, sorry. I'm not expecting a sorry, but I'm saying this is your investment. I'm not defending me. I'm not defending them. I'm defending all of us. Right? So yeah, bring it on. But let's, be mindful that this is where our investments live. So anyway, I just wanted to add that and, let you guys hear a little bit of the passion around it. We want to win, and we want to win for all of us. And we're doing everything that we can to make that happen. Not going to be perfect, not going to be mistake-free. There's going to be mistakes all over the place, right? That's crypto. But, the intentions are to do what we're talking about. And we hope that what we're showing and what we're demonstrating and laying out to you makes sense to you. And again, backs up what we're all saying here. So exciting to get this stuff going. It's a new beginning, and honored and happy to be here with you all. I love this community. You are respected, you are loved, and yeah, we're gonna get there, team.
Awesome.
That's
Thank
my
you, David. Appreciate it. Love it.
Oh man.
I know that we're getting about 2 hours right now, so I think we'll kind of close it up here unless John, you have anything to add?
John, please give us some wisdom.
No, I think that was perfect. I'm really happy you said all that, David. And yeah, it's inspiring to see, here for so long and continuing to push. And as you said, we just want to win. And just on the a note on the moderators, those guys are all Titans. They're all invested. We're all invested in Titano.
Right.
So we're on the same page as everyone. We want this to do well, and I think that's the bottom line. Everyone here wants this to do well. That's why we're here. That's why we continue to work here, and push and help. So yeah, that's it, guys. I'm really excited with what's happening and what's coming, and yeah, looking forward to the future.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Summit. Appreciate you guys as always. There's been so much work that's gone into setting up this Titan Talk, man. And Summit is, what is it, 5 o'clock in the morning, right when you got started?
I got up at a nice 4:30 a.m.
Wow.
So the sun wasn't even out. I think it's just starting to come out now. So
yeah, man, appreciate it. And as Summit said, there are more Titan Talks coming because this is sort of the first. There's so much information that we were looking. Okay, take that out. Hold off on that for a second. So there will be more coming that gives even more details. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for that. And thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Again, a recap for text will go out later today, along with just links in our social to check everything out from there. And then, of course, as soon as we have that next Titan Talk date ready for you guys, we will share that 100%. Until then, great talking with everybody. David, John, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, guys. And great talking with everybody, of course, or being able to talk to everybody, I should say, on the Titan Talk here. And appreciate all of you, your trust, your faith, and very excited for this journey to go forward. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Take care.
Everybody. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.